Hey everybody, it's Coach Bill Hart. Welcome to the podcast. Today I've got a guy that I want to introduce you to that you may not follow his approach exactly to the business. But what I know for sure is he's going to cause you to think a little differently. And there may very well be something that you'll take from Grant that you can use in your own business. It's my pleasure to introduce you to Grant Schneider. How are you today, man?
Good, Bill. Happy to be here, man.
I'm happy to have you here. So we need to make sure that people understand that you and I have known each other for a while, but then we went dark for quite a while. So when do you think we were involved in coaching together?
Had it been around 2009, 2010 would be my guess. Yeah, and I may have gone dark, but I've been following you I've been watching all your videos, so I've been taking content. So you still been coaching even though we haven't formally been.
Cool, man. Nothing makes me happier other than us being now reconnected, which is fantastic. So 2009, 2010, just to remind people, if you are listening to this or watching and you were not in the business at that time, Grant, do you want to describe what that market was like? Like we've just come off a cataclysmic event in the world and certainly in the mortgage industry. What's 09, what's 2010 look like?
Yeah, a lot like we're feeling right now. You did a video about the fork and the spatula and, the proverbial pie of business, the size of a hula hoop shrinking to a Frisbee, right? And that's what was going on. In addition to that, because the crisis was due to, a lot of poor underwriting standards and things like that, we saw our guidelines tighten like crazy. So you're sitting here in a market that's contracted. Guidelines have shifted to be more conservative than they ever have been. And now every mortgage company is offering the same vanilla products. So what's going to make you different? And I think that's one of the big things that made me reach out for coaching was go, okay, I don't have that niche product to go and talk about in front of a realtor meeting right now. We're all doing the same thing. And so the pie shrunk and none of us have a niche anymore.
How do you differentiate and remain viable, right? So now fast forward to at the time that we're recording this, September 2022, I started a mentoring group with 4 guys. You were a part of that. We've been at it for a couple of months. During the introduction process to the other guys, where you reminded me, by the way, that we had been coaching years ago. It's just, I've coached a lot of people, right? So I had forgotten, but now it all comes back to me. But you said something to the guys that I would love for you to repeat here in terms of sort of your introduction as a loan originator. What did you say to them?
Yeah, I use the line a lot that, I've been sober for 6 years. I kind of pause and everyone kind of applaud, just says, good for you, man. Good for you, right? And I was like, oh, I still like to drink a bit, on the weekends for sure. But I've been sober from real estate, from chasing real estate agents, right? And they're like,
just got to stop you. I love this line so much, man. It is, I have conveyed it to other people and everybody reacts the same way. Like, oh, good for him. That's awesome. And then when you say from realtors, they just laugh out loud. Like that is hysterical.
Yeah. I think, saying it to a loan officer, they're actually more proud of you for being sober from real estate agents.
So true, man.
And I don't want to paint the picture that, I hate real estate agents.
Of course.
I'm, married to one here, but,
understood.
I was at a point in my career where most people would think that I'd hit the pinnacle, right? Anyone outside looking in would go, man, he's got it figured out,
So just describe that. What did that look like at that moment in time?
Yeah. So 2016, I'm number 1 in the country for the company I was working for, and one of the top 10 VA loan officers in the country, right? Yep. And so I think every loan officer, whether they just started this year, they've been doing it for a while, being number 1 in your company, that's a big deal, right? Once you hit that though, this thing that happens, you see this further summit a little bit higher and it's number 1 in the country, period, not just your company. You're like,
for sure,
oh, man. And then you kind of have to reevaluate and go, hey, do I really want to climb that peak?
Absolutely, man.
But one of the things that during that time people didn't see was it was one of the darkest times in my life. The business certainly was doing well, but personally and just how I was doing my business, I just was unhappy. In fact, I had a conversation with my wife and was like, hey, I'm ready to get out of this thing. She's like, you're just number one. Like, what are you talking about? You know, we're providing a great lifestyle for my family. Around that time, we're starting to have kids. So not a great time to quit your job and start doing something else.
No doubt.
And so I said, okay, well, I've got an idea. I said that the issue I'm having is the foundation of my business, where I get my business from. If you compare it to dating, you know, you go and meet with a real estate agent, you start dating, and you want them to be okay with you dating 30 other real estate agents or 50 or however big that pie you want to grow. Right. But I want them to be loyal to me, right? I want 100% of your business.
Yeah.
You got to be cool with me going out and working with 30, 50, whatever your number is.
Yeah. How does that generally work out in a marriage? I'm not sure.
Right. Yeah. Everyone's upset at each other, right? You know, I get upset then when I see them working with another lender. Right. Like I was just cheated on. You're going, wait a second, but I want them to be okay with me working with 30. And I think loan officers can definitely understand that concept and go, wow, put it that way. No wonder there can be some friction there in our business, right? Yeah.
No doubt.
And so for me, I wanted to build a business. I had 10 years in the industry at that point, right? I'm going, I don't really feel, sure, the paychecks are bigger, that my foundation is any stronger today than it was when I got in, because I'm losing an agent, not because of anything I did wrong. It's just because the nature of the business. So I said, I have a concept that I'm going to try, because if I'm going to stay in this industry, then I need to change a few things, because there's some things I'm just not cool with. And one was where I get my business and the foundation of that source. And so sat down with my wife. It was a great time for her to transition, because we just had our first child, and she was not wanting to be in the agricultural finance anymore with the strict schedule and not the flexibility we were hoping for. And so I asked her to get her real estate license, and the rest is kind of history. And the focus was, how can I build a business and be in a truly committed relationship with my referral partner, right? That means one. In your market. So I'm going to turn my back on all the referral partners. And it obviously worked well. I was number one, you know, in the country for my company, making all this money. So it was a huge risk. I'm going to turn my back on that business structure. But I thought, man, if I'm fully committed to one agent team and we're pulling in the same direction every day, and I don't have to worry about them referring business to someone else, and they don't have to worry about me referring to someone else, this might just work. And I'd learned a lot over the years watching the good agents and the bad agents run their businesses, right? So I said, I think I've seen this from a pretty interesting perspective. I think I know what we can do. So we launched a little website called militaryhomesearch.com. And it's a site that I'd always envisioned making a better search experience for the military, right? And so some proprietary features on the site. It was a huge success. So 6 years in, over 1,700 transactions. She sells a home a day. And I've been sober, right? I haven't met with a real estate agent. I haven't asked for a referral from anyone else, and still maintained a top 20 place in VA production. But the biggest thing, I eliminated something in my business that was really eating at me, right? Getting me ready to quit at the pinnacle of my career. That's the biggest part, right? And so I think loan officers that might listen to this, maybe they like the real estate game. I don't know many that do, but maybe they like that. But there might be something else in their business that's eating at them that they can take a radical shift. It was a huge risk.
Oh my goodness. Well, I mean, look, let's address some of the obvious things. Like, what if your wife sucked as a realtor, right? Like, what if she was doing, you know, a deal every 4 months? You'd be like, well, okay, I'm committed to one realtor, but she's no good. Like, this isn't working out. So clearly you guys entered at a level of commitment where, I'm going to put words in your mouth with presuppositions, but I want you to speak to me about it. I'm assuming she said, okay, if we're going to put all our eggs in this basket, that's a lot of weight on me. So I've got to perform at a high level so that your business and my business both work. Is that accurate?
Yeah. You talk about going all in, right? So
that's totally all in.
We got a baby that's born, you know, and it's our first baby. You know, a year or two later, moved into a new house, and the commitment, the investment it was going to take to make this work, right? You just don't, business just doesn't fall the sky, right?
For sure.
So developing the website and things along those lines, it was huge. And I look back and I go, I don't know if I would take that level of risk, you know, different finances 6 years later and go, dude, that guy had some balls. Right?
I get it. Right.
And man,
cojones.
Yeah, exactly. So it was a huge risk, but you know, my wife, just knowing her, she's been a high performer her whole life. We were all in, and it was something that really has been wonderful for our relationship as well.
I'll bet.
I don't recommend you getting your wife into the business unless you want to.
Thank you for calling that out.
Yeah, that's not what this call is about, because there's real estate agents out there, and man, what a market to do it right now.
Right.
So let's join hands here. Let's go all in together. Let's do this a different way.
I think that's the interesting conversation. So I want to come right back to that, but I also want to give people a glimpse of your life, because one of the things that's come up in our mentoring calls is just your life, your lifestyle right now, the days that you're available, the hours that you're available, the way that you're present with your kids, the way that you guys vacation. I mean, you have created an enviable life, a very enviable life that most people don't experience. Can you just kind of describe that lifestyle a little bit right now?
You bet. And so some of the freedoms and stuff, one comes from where the business comes from, right? So I'm not spending time attending open houses and, doing the song and dance to appease my referral partners. I don't have to worry about that as much.
For sure.
So still providing a high level of value to my wife's team and her. In addition to that, built some amazing teammates over the years. I have some assistants that have worked with me for 6, 7, 8 years now.
So great.
And they just know me. I always call it the Stockton and Malone, right? You can do the pick and roll. I can throw it behind my back, and I know they're there to dunk it for me. Like we don't have to draw up a play. It's all, we've done it so many times. Yep. And so when you can build a team behind you, you can really focus on your highest and best use, and really that kind of quadrant activities that, I'm really good at and I like doing. If you can spend more time doing that kind of stuff, one, the business doesn't seem like such a chore anymore. Right. And really, changing my mindset, on, because it's a grueling, right? We've been through a lot.
For sure.
Yeah, we made a lot of money the last 2 years, but man, we were so busy, and we probably turned our back on some things, some priorities that we wish we didn't. So every year comes with its challenges. I saw something, you might have posted it too. It's hard when the market's good. It's hard when the market's bad, right? Like It's just a different heart, right?
Sure.
Kind of knowing what stage you are in the sales cycle, is important so that you stay committed to the process.
Absolutely.
So great teammates. My goal is to be done by noon. When I say done by noon, that doesn't mean I won't take a phone call.
Sure.
Client call. No, I'm still taking that. With modern technology, you can stay on, right? You can still be available, but I'm not sitting here where you see me right now, afternoon, if I don't have to. And if I do, it's because it's my choice, because I'm working on a project that I'm really good at and I love doing. Afternoon, if you get an appointment with me afternoon, I must like you, right? Because that's sacred time to do a few things, right? Maybe work on my short game, maybe read a book before the kids are ready to come home from school, because then it's their time. And thankfully my team is been super loyal. They're experts at what they do. I can really rely on them, and they know they can rely on me.
So good, man. So I want to call out something that you're describing, but I want to make sure that everybody hears it and sees it. And it's one of the things that I've seen over the years that many top producers do at some point. And it's usually after you've been like redlining and, you've got health issues or relationship issues, or that, there's something where you're getting rattled and there's steam coming out from under the hood. And that's the moment where you make an investment, generally in an assistant or several team members, and you share, some of the goodies with someone else who takes some of that weight off of you, so that you can have the lifestyle that you just described. I guess it must be that sort of feeling of scarcity and uncertainty about, I'm never really sure what the market's going to do, to your point, or where the next transaction is going to come from. So I got to kind of, keep it all right at, the poker table all in thing, right? Where I'm pulling the chips over to me. But what I've seen that you've done, and that so many other top producers have done, is there's a moment in time where you actually do something counterintuitive, and you invest in people that help you to take your game to another level. There's only so much that you can do personally, but I'm sure there was a time where wherever your tack redlined, you were pegged and you were working too many hours and you weren't working on your short game, and you were probably gaining some weight and maybe drinking a little too much and maybe not talking to the kids often enough, for your wife or whatever it was. I mean, yes. Does that sound familiar at some point?
Oh yeah. It was right around that same time, right?
Yeah.
Prior to having kids, you're in my whole 20s was head down, just working my tail off and not partaking in too many healthy habits. That's for sure.
Yep.
And it generated a nice financial picture for the family, right? But everything else, you realize at some point you'll get to a number and you really wish you would have spent more time on other things that are more important than just the finances, right?
You bet.
So redlining, I mean, I would see another application come in on my email, and I would literally like curse. I'd be like, are you kidding me? I'm now going to be here till 9 o'clock tonight.
Right.
You know, like I thought I was about to leave. I had a builder account, I remember, and I would leave a grocery cart full of groceries in the grocery store on a Saturday afternoon because if I didn't run home to do this pre-approval, they were going to send it to the other preferred lender, right? Only to go home and pull a 500 FICO score. And I'm like, I can't even go grocery shopping on the weekend. That's not living.
No, and that's sounding familiar to people right now. I mean, not in this market as much, right? Like right now, it's all about lead generation. But to your point, when opportunity becomes a weight on you, we know there's something wrong. So you got to figure out how to scale it. So just before we go back to you may not need to marry a realtor literally, but you might want to marry a realtor figuratively conversation. I just want to share this book that I know that you've now got, the EOS Life, and it's what you're reading right now, and you may have finished it, I don't know, but I want people to hear the 5 key points that Gino Wickman, and the irony of this, you guys, Gino Wickman, the author, is the son of Floyd Wickman, who was a real estate trainer in the 80s and 90s on the East Coast. He was out of Detroit when Mike Ferry, Tom Ferry's dad, was on the West Coast. And this is his son who came into the business and helped him turn Floyd's business into a viable business. Floyd was a brilliant speaker and trainer. It's kind of the old Michael Gerber E-Myth story, you know, where he was great at what he did, but he wasn't great at running a business. His son came in and did it, and then created a system that he calls the Entrepreneurial Operating System, hence EOS. And it accomplishes 5 things in your life. Doing what you love. So let's just think about what Grant just described to us. Doing what you love with people you love, making a huge difference, being compensated appropriately with time for other passions. Grant, is this not your world?
Yeah. You know, reading the book, it was amazing because it's like, man, I did that. You know, the book is great because it kind of blueprints it, right? Like, you know, you've got great ideas that you never really wrote down. I feel like they've been watching me for the last few years, and it took a long time to get there. Like, I did not world record speed implement these things, right? Like, I've been very slow. Reading the book, I'm just like, man, I remember when I went through that process.
So cool, man.
I did.
So you guys, highly recommend it. The EOS Life by Gino Wickman. Make sure you pick up a copy of that. I think it's going to speak to you. This market that we're in right now, you know, looking at 7% at the time that we record this, Todd Duncan just published something yesterday, and it was 30 years of historical interest rates. And if you average 30 years of interest rates, 7% is the number. So like, that's where we're at. We're all running around like the sky is falling and the world's going to come to an end. Look, here's what we know. Here's what Grant knows. And here's what your wife knows. People still need to buy and sell real estate. What percentage of her business right now is with veterans?
95%.
Yeah. So that world is always getting transferred. There's something, what do you call it in the veteran community?
PCS, right?
PCS. There's always something new. They're going to change stations. They're going to change bases. They're going to be someplace else. But that's a microcosm of life. I mean, it's amplified in the military, and good for you for focusing on that and living in Colorado Springs, by the way. Great job. But there's a lot of people listening to this right now that are already in that market, or, you know, somewhere else in the country, or could be. Or you just think about, well, okay, if discretionary business, like the stuff we've had for the last 2 or 3 years, meaning, well, yeah, I think I'd like to refi because I want to buy a Jaguar. You know, those conversations are gone. But you know what? There are deaths, births, divorces, marriages, transfers in, transfers out, move up, move down. I mean, come on, you guys. There's all kinds of reasons that people need to buy and sell real estate. So when Grant called out that video, and go look it up, by the way, on YouTube, it's called Forks and Spatulas. There's one from 2010 where I had just shaved my head for a client that was going through cancer, through chemo. And then there's one from 2022, because it's the same market. The market shrinks. Here's what happens. Grant, you did what, 160 million last year?
Yep.
And you'll do 100 million this year?
Yep.
So here's what that says. In a declining market, Grant traded in his fork for a spatula. He's getting more of what is contracting. He's getting more of what's contracting, meaning there are people that Grant competes with right now that are saying, you know what, I can't do it. I closed one loan last month. I can't do it. I can't hang in there. I got to go sell Chryslers, or I got to go sell shoes at Nordstrom. I got to do something different. There's opportunity for you guys. So coming back to Grant's very interesting focus, If you were to consider in your own market, wherever you are, you probably already know the realtor that would be the prospect for you, somebody that does a lot of volume, has a similar worldview. I think Grant's going to tell you, you want to be, we're talking a lot about biblical principles in our mentoring, Grant, but one of the things the Bible talks about is being equally yoked, which is like two oxen, right? Being, put together, walking side by side with that yoke, that wooden yoke around their necks. You do not want to commit to a realtor that doesn't see life the way that you do. If they're working 24/7 because they're out of control, I wouldn't recommend that. If they tap dance around the shades of gray and you run your world black and white, you're probably not going to want to go there. But if you have a realtor in mind, or you can identify one that's doing a lot of volume, maybe could do more with your help, like let's make sure we talk about that, and you have a similar worldview and you just feel like you're aligned, like this could be a good team. Grant, I would love for you to speak to that LO who says, okay, you've got my attention. Like, how would I start this process? What would you tell them?
When you have that conversation, well, identifying the right agent, you explain how to do that. But when you sit down with that real estate agent, they may already know, but really clear up the picture of what a loan officer real estate relationship traditionally looks like. When I talked about the dating, right? And say, hey, how this works is I refer you a deal, we do a deal, I do a good job. I've got you on the hook. I've gotten a couple of referrals from you. And guess what? My next referral is not coming to you. I got you on the hook. I got to go find the next agent I can hook with a deal or whatever it might be.
Yep.
What if I just concentrated all my deals, all my focus on your business, and you did the same to me? And how smooth would our processes be if you and your team really go find a team leader, right? That's going to give you the most opportunity.
Sure.
Worked with the same lender, and we worked with the same realtor on 80% of our transactions. How smooth would the process be for our customers, our clients? And that's what the benefit of really teaming up. And that's what I would focus on, is how much better is life just going to be for you, period. Well, by the way, how many deals are you really getting from these other lenders? I kind of noticed years ago that things were changing a little bit. It used to be that you needed a realtor to get a deal, right? Because the lenders didn't really know how to generate their own business yet.
Sure.
That's changed. That's changed a lot. And so if you're a lender that doesn't know how to generate business, learn that first. Because frankly, you're not going to be able to bring enough value.
Absolutely.
To make that relationship worth it. They're going to look at you and go, what are you bringing to the table, right? It's like, you need to be able to generate business. And, that's certainly a topic for another time. I think focusing on a niche is really good. However, in a contracting market, you already are starting with a little smaller pie in the first place, right? So my pie wasn't the size of hula hoop, but it was probably like one of those Costco pumpkin pies, that are coming out like in the next week. They're like,
I know the size. Yeah.
Oh, those things are phenomenal, right? So that's been my business instead of the hula hoop, right?
Yep.
And I've been eating well, but now it's like one of those little personal pies instead of a Frisbee, right? Because it started out smaller. For me, I can't really go and attract, and I really don't want to, other agents in my community, because it wouldn't be a committed relationship.
For sure.
Right? They would know that too. And there's not a whole lot of opportunity there to expand that way. What if I can bake some more of these personal pies in the other markets, right? And one of the things in the last couple of years that I've done is started getting licensed in other states. The first reason for that was I saw a lot of drip in my past client database, right?
Sure.
So a leak, meaning I'm only licensed in Colorado. They PCS to Colorado. They're here for 3 years. They move out to North Carolina. I lose them forever, right? So for someone doing my level of business, my database was staying this size, right? There was a leak, right? I wasn't able to service them. That was a great move, because changing your mindset, you think, doing a loan in North Carolina is going to be so much different than in Colorado. Newsflash, not really. Like really not. It's like 2% different, right? There's just a little bit you got to kind of know about.
Yeah.
So now it's like, okay, how can I now go find more Laurens? My wife's name's Lauren in Fort Hood, near Fort Bragg.
Nice.
There's 300 plus duty stations across the country.
Yep.
There's opportunity there.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to bake some more pies, right? Because once again, I don't like when I'm not in control of my business.
You bet.
And market shrinking my pie, I really wasn't in control of that.
Oh yeah.
And so how do I bake more pies? And so that's where I'm going to, that's where I'm focusing on, is now I can show, hey, look what I've done here in Colorado Springs. I can bring value. I can generate business.
So I love that for you in the VA world. It makes a ton of sense. That's not going to apply to everybody. And by the way, your wife got at least the referral, right? When she got a referral fee when she's sending something out. I'm assuming 20-25% as realtors typically do. It's a little different in the mortgage industry. But, if you're a traditional lender in whatever market, like I live in Moore Park, California, let's say that you were doing, strong volume, you were doing whatever, 10 loans a month in Little Moore Park, California, population maybe 30,000 or so. But then we've got Thousand Oaks in the outlying area with 130,000 probably. Ventura might have, I don't even know, 100,000, maybe 60,000 to the west. You might want to start looking at adjacent markets to Grant's point. So you don't have to, because of the nature of the military, that's a unique thing where they're going to another base. You might just need to start looking at adjacent markets. And many of our top producers at Movement Mortgage have done this, where you begin to look at what's adjacent, what's right next door, where else could I go deeper using Grant strategies. So I love that idea so much. The other thing, though, that I would encourage you is consider the niche. Like that might be counterintuitive right now when you're trying to figure out where your leads are going to come from. But I mean, Grant makes the point masterfully that at some point, Grant, you made the decision to double down on veterans. You made the decision to do that. In the same way that Josh Metal, I don't know if you know Josh or not, but when I was coaching Josh years ago, I always tell this story as though I had something to do with it. I just showed up and he asked in a coaching session, sort of rhetorically, Coach, I think I'm going to figure out what kind of loans I enjoy doing the most and figure out how to do more of them. For him, it was physicians. And so he wrote a book called Why Physician Home Loans Fail. Wrote a book. It's on Amazon. He created a website, much like you did, and I think it was physician. No, it was the initials of the state. So I think it was either UT or UtahPhysicianHomeLoans.com, and then he started to register all the other 50 URLs around the country. And then he eventually connected with a financial planning firm that specialized in physicians. So the point is, I don't know what percentage of his total volume that represents right now, but it's a majority for sure, because he went deep in a niche. You can go into a niche with HR directors, with veterans, with first-time home buyers, like figure it out in your market where that might really pay dividends for you. Do you ever sit around and wonder, like, what would have happened if I had not gone after veterans? Have you ever thought about, like, what else that might have looked like, or would you have gone after a different group, or what would have happened if you hadn't?
You brought up a good point that when the market's contracting, it might sound counterintuitive to shrink your toolbox as far as loan product, right? But that's exactly what I did. So when I joined the company that focused on VA home loans, I let the recruiter talk for some reason, usually just like, hey, I'm not interested, boom.
Right.
Talked about their name and the VA was in the loan. I go, that can make me different. Okay, now we all do the same VA loan pretty much at that time, but I'll just be the VA loan guy. I just want to do your VA loans. You can keep using your brother-in-law or whoever to do all the other loans, but let me be the VA expert. And yep. The advantage was the VA home loan wasn't as sexy as it is today as it was 10 years ago. It's certainly on everyone's radar now, but back then people were scared of them, right? That was too much paperwork, appraisals, all the myths. And I was doing them. And so go back to that work-life balance. What if you could do the loans you like as well?
Absolutely.
And focus on all those. So you're now just even more of a well-oiled machine because they're kicking out the same loan program over and over again, right?
Totally. What I want to say here, as we conclude, and I want to give you time to, if you have one final thought for the audience, but pretty sure these are the points that I would use to sort of synopsize what we've talked about here today. And Grant, thanks for making the time, man, because I know you could be doing something else. You could be chipping and pitching golf balls right now. You could be putting. You could be playing with your kids, and you could be, helping somebody with a home loan right now. But instead, you're talking to me and you're helping other people. So I appreciate that. Here's what I take from this. I think, number one, the niche conversation is just worthy of consideration. You may not run towards it, but it's worthy of consideration. That's number one. Number two is consider the possibility of one partner. Todd Duncan, I remember him saying years ago at a sales mastery event, he said, if you're going to have all your eggs in one basket, watch the basket. And what he meant was, if you're going to double down in a particular area, you have to own it. Like, you can't take it for granted any more than you can take a relationship with your wife for granted. When I just flew to Charlotte, where we're headquartered, as you know, this week for an EOS meeting. Actually, I was there all day. And I thought ahead of time before the trip, when I was in a Walgreens, I think, I bought a card, a for no reason, I love you card, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I left it at the coffee maker. When I left the house at 2:45 in the morning, thank you very much, I left a card at the coffee machine against Tony's cup so that she would know how much I'm going to miss her for the next 24 hours, but how much I love her. I'm at 33 years into this marriage, and I'm still investing into that relationship, right? So in the same way, I think you've got to look at that. And then I think the other thing that you did is you made a decision at some point, Grant, to share the wealth in terms of having great team members who are with you for a long time, who you know that you're able to just throw the ball back to, and they've got it, because it frees you up to no longer have to leave a shopping cart full of groceries at the grocery store. You have a life that is envious. You have built a life that most people cannot even imagine, but you've done it by being focused and yet being generous at the same time. Am I synopsizing reasonably well?
Yeah, I think that's great. And I think what's important is there's been a lot of other people that have helped me get to where I'm at today.
You bet.
And it's not like I've been living 16 years of this life. I've been in the dark places. I've been, this 15-hour work days and burned out and redline. So just know that the only reason I'm here today is because I said, hey, enough's enough, right?
Good for you.
Last kind of piece of the pie, if you will, the market we're in right now. Luckily, hey, I started young. I started when I was 20 years old. So I've been through a couple of these little hiccups, right? And certainly 08, 09, 2010. Yeah. Back then, I didn't have a sweet lead generation system. I didn't have relationships with realtors. I didn't have any of that kind of stuff. The reason I got through it is because I showed up every day. I didn't stop showing up. We need to keep showing up. So whether you're early in the career or not, keep showing up, right? Because there's a lot of people that are putting away those forks, right? And they're going to go do something else.
Yep.
And I think the opportunity we're going to have when it turns around again, and you realize there's only a few forks in that pie anymore, it's not overcrowded anymore, man, it's going to be good. And so the longer it hurts, the better it will be, the less forks. So just know that, like, for me, I almost didn't renew my license in that 08.
Wow.
Okay. I was like October, I'm thinking, man, it's like $300 or whatever it was at the time. I got to do this CE class. I hate doing the CE classes. Almost didn't renew. Then that first quarter, the next year, I did more loans that quarter than the previous year.
Oh, buddy.
So know that that's there, man. That is there.
I love that.
And so the harder it gets, the better it's going to be.
That's the perfect note to close on. So, Grant Schneider, you rock. I'm proud of you. I love what you've built. Thank you for being willing to share what you've learned with people that can use it right now. In terms of how to find you, they can find you on social. I imagine it's not that complicated.
Yeah. Yep. I kind of stay under the radar, but if you need to find me, just look me up and you'll find me.
All right, buddy. So good hanging with you today. Thanks for sharing, and we'll be in touch.
Awesome. Thanks, Bill.
See you, buddy.